So how proud Australia is as a cricketing nation, and they have for the longest time taken the moral high ground on many matters, and they've always felt that playing hard and fair is the Australian way. Many legends of the game like Shane Warne, Steve Waugh, Glenn McGrath, everyone would always go on record to say that they play hard but fair.
But they
That
play
but
fair.
fair being
Till
the
date, Australia is the only side who haven't been involved in a fixing scandal.
yeah. So I mean, of course, there have been controversies all the time, and that's part and parcel of any sports person's like Shane Warne being caught for diuretics just before the 2003 World Cup and banned for the World Cup and
Caught for
year.
what?
He had a banned substance found in his body. It was
Oh,
not a doping scandal, not a performance enhancing drug, but a banned diuretic, which later was cleared anyway. But it was his mom who
yeah.
actually gave him for weight loss. So
Oh,
so that was very naive and stupid way of getting out banned. And then you had in the late 90s or something like that, I think, when uh, some of the players in the Australian side, Mark Waugh, Shane Warne, were accused of passing on information to the bookies about the pitch report. So that was primarily to do with that was not a fixing scandal, but more like providing more information about how the pitch would behave and how bookies can actually go ahead with it, right? So that's crucial information. So that was an allegation, which I think they came out clean later on. And they were in the middle of it. In fact, if you read Shane Warne's autobiography, which I have a couple of times, once I read and once I listened to it very closely after his passing, he clearly calls out how they were trying to trap the Australian cricketers, some of them, through Pakistani cricketers during their tour of Pakistan, I think, or maybe when Pakistan toured Australia, I'm not sure. So some of the Pakistan players like Salim Malik and others who approached Australian players to, underperform and take some money or things like that. So they wanted to meet certain contacts in the underworld and in the bookie, gang. So outrightly rejected by the Australians. They reported it to the anti-corruption unit. So I think they have had their fair share of controversies, but they've always taken the stance that we are not part of such things as a culture. But the Sandpaper Gate was the first time they were involved as a group, as a leadership group, and it told the world a lot about the hard but fair culture, but also the win at all costs culture. To rephrase the hard but fair. So I think somewhere a slip of mind or maybe a brain fade decision, I would say, just to go really hard at the South Africans, trying to do everything they can to win that. And a lot has to do with also how the test match was building. You must understand that Australia has never lost a test match in South Africa. Sorry, not a test match. No, never lost a test series in South Africa since South Africa's readmission. How many visiting nations can boast of such a record? So Australia has never lost a test series in South Africa since the readmission until in 2018 when it happened. So it was all building up to that. And also the way things were getting heated between David Warner, Steve Smith, some of the Australian players, and the South African camp, with everything that was going on between Quinton de Kock and David Warner, the really bad personal sledges, and the crowd getting involved into it. I think somewhere they were taking taunts at David Warner's wife, who at one point was, linked with AFL superstar, Australian football, Aussie rules football, Australian Football League superstar. So the one he was, I think, named Sonny Bill Williams. He was at one point in time dating Candice Warner. So I think they were taking really personal to Warner, and there were a lot of exchanges. So I think all this went on to build into that win at all cost mindset is what I felt. Anyway, I'll get some water. My throat is actually getting very itchy. Yeah. That he's much like hated in Australia, like Virat Kohli is hated in India. So you see, everything that happens with Virat Kohli, the blame also partly goes to Anushka Sharma, and I feel that the same happens with David Warner as well. That people may not be really, full of love for Candice Warner either. And anything that happens in the Warner family, both of them face the heat, and it's a really tough spot to be in. And I think a lot of credit has to go to the entire family to for traveling the way that they have after the scandal. And of course, the reason why we still villainize David Warner is because his performances have been affected, especially in the last few years after the scandal. After 2018, his records, especially in test matches, have not been really good. Unlike Steve Smith, who gave a real good comeback in 2019 in the Ashes in England, and we ended up totally forgetting that he was also totally part of the whole leadership group which decided to do what they wanted to do with the ball and the sandpaper. So I feel that the stain for Steve Smith was removed by Steve Smith's performances immediately after he came back from the ban. For Cameron Bancroft, he just went away from the team, performed really well in the domestic competitions, in the BBL for Scorchers, and in Shield cricket as well, bringing him back into the reckoning for the opening spot in Test cricket. But for David Warner, that stain still remained. At least, Steve Smith performances spoke. Cameron Bancroft, he went out of the spotlight. For David Warner, his performances went from good to bad to worse, especially in Test cricket. But there are, of course, at home, there are some bright spotlights and some exceptional performances like the 200 plus that he hit in Melbourne. I think under cramps, he was really, batting it out in the heat of Melbourne. I think a couple of summers back. So I think that's the reason why we hate David Warner the way we hate him today. When I say we hate, I don't hate him. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's up to realizing those, coming back from it in whatever way. I mean, you can always say that you come back from it through your performances, but you come back from it as an individual. You divide the team, you divide the nation, with respect to how they look at you. But then you come back to it and then have a farewell like the ACG test. Like almost everyone was standing in ovation for David Warner in his farewell test. It was sort of a fairy tale ending that he would have wanted. And I'm sure that we always forget that this was not just the only players involved in Sandpaper Gate. The truth may never come out unless Cricket Australia has some kind of skirmish with David Warner at a later stage. They've given him the farewell that he deserves, but in case they end up ruffling feathers, maybe he will come out with an autobiography at some stage to reveal what really happened there. All the good guys that we see today, Mitch Stark, Pat Cummins, Saint Angel, and all the other bowling unit, the leadership group, which had Darren Lehman, Boofy Boof, all of these guys. They went for a break. They decided to do it. How do you think that only David Warner and Steve Smith and Cameron Bancroft were the only ones involved? Cameron Bancroft clearly was caught with evidence. David Warner apparently was the one who instigated Cameron Bancroft. He was an adult. I don't want to use it, but he was a freaking adult. So he was a freaking adult. He could have always said no. It's not like he was bullied into doing this. And even if he was, it's just the question of integrity. Is your test position that crucial to doing something really outrageous? Then I think he should have taken that call. So I don't fully blame Warner alone here. It's a joint responsibility. It's a collective thing. And I totally feel that Steve Smith, David Warner, and Cameron Bancroft took the bullet. Warner more so for the rest of the team. So that's the take on the whole Sandpaper Gate. Let's put it to rest. Like, it shouldn't define who he is as a cricketer. He's an all-format great. I mean, if you look at that list of opening players who actually played with Warner as as his opening partner, there were like a dozen opening batsmen in the last 12 years of his Test career. Only he stayed, and there should be a good reason why he stayed, because the team felt that there was no other opening batter as good as Warner who could actually take that spot. Of course, there were a few who played more than most, like Chris Rogers stayed for a bit. Shane Watson was, shuffling down and up the order as a makeshift opener, but then Shane Watson became a mainstay after some time. Then you had for some time Katich. Simon, I think Simon, he played with Simon Katich, if I'm not wrong, and then he played with Usman Khawaja in the last few years. So a lot has been going on, and he is probably one who stayed constant in all of this since the days of probably, I would say, Matthew Hayden or Mark Taylor and Michael Slater. So when you speak of Australian openers, I think not even someone with more credibility and legendary status like Matthew Hayden or Justin Langer, I don't think anyone else would come to mind other than David Warner if you speak of this generation of Australian openers. So, yeah, clearly, I think that's what defines him, and that's what should define him as a cricketer. And in the white ball, there is absolutely no questioning his greatness. So it's really tough to be that fit across three formats. To be honest, I would put him on par with Virat Kohli in terms of extreme fitness for the age. And I would think that David Warner can probably still play for another 4 or 5 years if he continues to be in the same fitness levels that he is.
That is all the time we have for today's David Warner special. That lengthy monologue from Gandalf. You would think he came straight out of a set in SNL in the 90s.
There you go. So I put this up. So these images are probably the ones that quickly came to my mind. If you look at the first one, that's his debut series. Is this?
South Africa.
I know, Chris, if you recall this one, the first one where he was smashing
89 of
Stein.
some 30, 35 balls. Dale Stein,
Yeah.
Makaya, Tini. I don't know if Sean Pollock was around at the time.
Yeah, I think it was Dale Stein and Teeny, and Teeny, and then you had Jack Harlis and another left-arm fast bowler that South Africa had at that point. I'm not sure if it was Wayne Parnell, who must have been very young at that stage, but I'm not sure who it was. So yeah, David Warner was a kid back then. He burst into the scene.
23, 24. No, no, that. So, are we good to start? Kind of, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think just one more image. I just put on two slides, one on this, and the next is his overall batting record. So, and I also need some break while speaking because when I speak continuously, my throat is gone going for a toss. So I don't want you to be a spectator.
Hey,
I'm trying to cover for the silence sometimes, but yeah, please pitch in wherever you could. Yeah.
yeah, I have lots on my mind. Decor, Sandpaper, Joe Root Punch. Let's not forget about that.
I think you have all the bad shades of David Warner in your mind.
In a
And
conversation
when
with
you
David
said that
Warner,
you
somehow
like him,
I am the villain.
sorry.
How many times in a conversation where David Warner is the mainstay, he is not going to be the villain. I am.
Yeah, like you have a farewell tribute discussion on someone, and you bring out all the bad points about that person. Then it's clearly going to be a debate out there. So yeah, look, I mean, free to have your opinion, but then when you said that you like him the most in terms of the Australian cricket team after Alex Carey being at the bottom of your list, that says a lot about where he ranks. Look, we are not, at least I'm not anyone's judge here. So everyone has their fair share of mistakes and in life, and especially when they grow up. And you could be wrong one day and absolutely right the next day. So I'm not going to judge, let's say, someone by what they tweeted, what they did a few years back. Maybe even if it comes to, let's say, a racist tweet by Ollie Robinson, or someone who might have misbehaved in the past. Someone might like someone like Michael Vaughan, or others who are accused of being racist by some of the Yorkshire cricketers. So I think I'm not going to be a judge of all those things. People make mistakes, you learn, and then you go through it. That's what matters. Like you could totally be finding yourself a fool, especially when you look back in the past, and that's when growth happens. So I'm completely for that. People make mistakes, but when we are probably young, we might actually think that that's the biggest mistake of our life. Probably when you move through it, you'll probably grow through the old mistakes, make newer ones, and then grow as an individual. So I'm not going to judge David Warner by punch in the face of Joe Root, especially in a pub setting where there were a bunch of 20-year-olds sitting there, brash Australian English rivalry. So I'm not going to judge by that. They are obviously now friends who shake hands every time they play against each other. So it's not at least as bad and vindictive as Ian Chappell and Beefy Botham were. So Ian Botham and Ian Chappell had long history, and I think recently they also had a special interview where they were discussing the longest feud or something like that. So people do that all the time when they are young, and it happens to every sports person out there. So not going to judge. If you are going to judge people on that, then probably let's bring up Hardik Pandya's interview with Karan Johar, KL Rahul's interview with Karan Johar, and how they behave like absolute pricks. So I think it's always easy to find black spots in people's careers, but to stand out despite all of that. And if you recall in the post Sandpaper Gate episode, David Warner in the press conference clearly admitted that he thought he would never play for Australia again, and he really broke down at that point in time when he said he could never play for Australia again, although he would love to, of course. And to have come this far, the organization had confidence in giving him the second chance, stripping him of all potential captaincy aspirations and all of those things, stripping him of the vice captaincy at that point in time. So all of that happened. He has paid his dues. Come on, I mean, how much more do you want a guy to do after you commit something like a cardinal sin in a very proud cricket culture? So you do the sin, you pay your dues, you apologize to the general public, you apologize to your fans, then come back from it. You're done. I mean, you're good after that, unless you do something worse later on. And even then, I wouldn't go on to judge. I mean, unless it's really like a murder or something. So. We can, of course, start the episode, Chris. It's just that you have been constantly on recording mode and you have not said a word. It's always open. You can speak all the time.
What else you have?
Okay, since it's just the two of us, please don't wait for muting, unmuting. It's going to be a conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if it's going to be muting, unmuting, it will look like a conference call that we have in the corporate setting. So don't want to do that. Let's keep it as a discussion. That's why I was just trying to cover for the gap by continuously speaking, because I'm not seeing
I was waiting for the episode to start. I thought you were
already. I thought you were already recording.
I just wanted to catch you with some.
Do I have to repeat the whole bad thing?
Yeah, obviously in the episode, I was just trying to get like a.
And I was speaking with my, yelling my lungs and throat off.
I thought you were just emotional. That's why I kept wondering when.
No, it's not. It's not me getting emotional or getting immersed into this. I thought the recording was on. Anyway, that's fine.
Yeah, I will. I actually wanted to cut and use it for CU things.
We can use that. Yeah, we can use that monologue. Yeah, we can use that monologue.
We never started. Hey, hello, welcome. Like, why did you think it was an actual episode?
Yeah, my bad. But I thought since it's a recording, we would have it the way.
Yeah. We just wanted you to be unguarded and speak your mind. We definitely.
Yeah, I think we'll also add some bit of his, maybe a minute of his equation with his best friends in the team, like Phil Hughes, and post that how his cricket changed, and maybe Usman Khwaja. Be biased against someone because you like someone else.
I think that's how biases work and all.
Yeah, I know, but it's unfair. Especially, I hate having you on this episode.
Pleasure is mine. I think this is an ethical conundrum we all had in our.
Look, I never said one bit that what David Warner did was right. It's definitely something which tarnished, and of course, me being a diehard fan like you, it hurt me personally because I couldn't really show my face to other fans as an Australian cricket fan. I was really ashamed of something that happened that way. But I wouldn't probably pin it on the individual. I probably would pin it on the team culture that built up to that point. And I really felt that Justin Langer was the right coach to take on Australia after that point.